November 2006. At the edge of a swampy Florida park, police find an abandoned pickup truck. Inside are two dead men, their hands bound with zip ties. They've been executed over a stolen stash of cocaine worth $150,000. While investigators process that gruesome scene, the killer is hundreds of miles away in Alabama, walking the aisles of a Toys R Us. He uses his cut of cartel money to buy a birthday present for his young granddaughter. This is Jose Manuel Martinez. To his family, he is a deeply devoted grandfather. To the Sinaloa cartel, he is El Mano Negra, the Black Hand. He is one of the deadliest hitmen in American history, responsible for over 35 murders. Yet Martinez was absolutely no criminal mastermind. His name had appeared in police homicide files as far back as 1979. He lived openly, using his real name, and he even casually walked into police stations to chat with the detectives. Martinez stayed free for 30 years, operating within the blind spots of the American justice system. The trail of violence begins in 1970s California. When Martinez was 16, his sister was murdered. A friend pointed him toward the alleged attacker. For $500, Martinez shot the man dead, taking his first life in an act of teenage revenge. That job caught the attention of cartel operatives moving narcotics through the state. Martinez quickly evolved into a professional enforcer. His assignments were brutally consistent: collect debts from low-level dealers, bind their hands with zip ties, and leave bodies in remote locations. But he compartmentalized his violence entirely. At home, he was the fiercely protective patriarch. If a relative was hospitalized, he was the first one there. He picked his grandchildren up from school, treated them to spa days, and even dressed them up as Disney princesses. As a bilingual, U.S.-born citizen, he easily blended into rural American communities and slipped seamlessly back and forth across the Mexican border. This background provided the operational cover necessary to avoid the usual scrutiny applied to cartel operatives. When people met this polite, doting grandfather, their brains simply couldn't reconcile his gentle demeanor with the profile of a ruthless mass murderer. This jarring duality served as an effective psychological camouflage. Beyond his personality, Martinez benefited from where he hunted and who he hunted. He primarily targeted the poor agricultural regions of California's Tulare County. His victims were often undocumented farm workers and small-time rural drug dealers. Over the years, the name El Mano Negra surfaced in multiple local homicide investigations, but California police departments in the 80s and 90s were stretched thin. Because the victims lacked social influence, the cases rarely received the resources needed for a deep investigation. This local apathy protected him across the country, clear out to that 2006 double homicide in Florida. After executing those two men, Martinez left a cigarette butt floating in a Mountain Dew can inside the truck. Police collected the DNA evidence, but because one of the victims was a transient construction worker, the lab test was deprioritized. It sat on a shelf for years. By this point, police in 3 different states held isolated pieces of the puzzle. Florida had the physical DNA, California had the suspect's name, and soon Alabama gets a body. But none of these departments were talking to each other. The justice system essentially shielded him by prioritizing cases where victims had more social visibility, leaving Martinez to kill for decades without a coordinated response. The shield finally cracks in early 2013. The 51-year-old Martinez is visiting his daughter in Alabama when he makes an uncharacteristically emotional, impulsive decision. While driving through a remote stretch of national park, an acquaintance named Jose Ruiz makes the mistake of calling Martinez's daughter a terrible mother. Martinez doesn't kill him for cartel money. He pulls out a gun, says, "The woman you insulted is my daughter," and shoots Ruiz twice in the head. He commits this murder right in front of his daughter's partner, Jaime Romero. When police trace Romero through a surveillance camera and arrest him, the terrified man refuses to take the fall. Facing prison time and away from his family, Romero talks to the detectives. When Martinez allowed his personal rage to drive a professional-style execution, he finally gave investigators a direct link between his private life and his history of violence. Right as Alabama police are building their case, the Florida cold case suddenly thaws. 7 years later, the lab finally processes the cigarette butt from the Mountain Dew can, getting a direct DNA match for Jose Manuel Martinez. The Florida detective immediately picks up the phone and calls California law enforcement. The California officers finally share their long-held suspicions, explaining that Martinez is the rumored cartel enforcer, known as El Mano Negra. Then, the California investigator mentions a small but crucial detail: the killer's habit of binding his victims with zip ties. That specific operational signature instantly links the isolated murders, unifying the distinct crime scenes into a single serial killer profile. The moment these departments treated these marginalized cases as connected priorities, the bureaucratic silos collapsed. The trap finally snapped shut. Martinez is arrested in Arizona while crossing the border back into the U.S. During the interrogation, detectives expect him to deny everything. Instead, completely unbothered, he calmly confesses to the Alabama murder, the Florida murders, and then demands to speak with a California deputy so he can confess to over 35 more. The multi-state operation that finally brought him down proves that the system can work, but Jose Martinez operated with impunity for 3 decades. His long record of violence remains a testament to the sheer number of lives lost when society looks the other way.